federal property in the history of the United States of America. That was our battle, and we claimed that victory on December 15, 2010 at noon. We won that. But nothing, give yourselves a round of applause. But nothing succeeds like success. So once we won that battle, we won to the next one. And we began to talk to people about what should be our next battle. And somebody said, well, what about what Dr. Ed Robinson talked about? What about this Afrocentric infusion into the school district curriculum? What does that mean? Those are just fancy words for telling world history. You can call it Afrocentric history, but it's really world history. Because everything in the world, the arts, the sciences, came out of Africa. So Dr. Edward Robinson came up with this unique idea, this ingenious idea, to tell the story so that in the same way that children have to have reading, writing, and arithmetic to graduate, they also now have to have reading, writing, arithmetic, and Afrocentric education before they can actually graduate. I could tell you more about this, but he can tell you better than I can. Let's give Dr. Ed Robinson, 93 years old, a big round of applause.
Everybody's a baby. I'm so glad that Dorr laid out what he did. We both came out of the Black People's Unity movement right up there in Keeman's father's church, Church of the Advocate, 18th and Diamond. I went on into the history portion. Another one into the Freedom Theater. So all kinds of branches. Walt Palmer went under education, getting his charter school. So we all split up and went into a different area. When I came out of the Army in 45, I decided that I was going to concentrate on having my children learn who they were. I have in my hand a credit card. And in my wallet, I have my driver's license. Some years ago, someone stole my wallet with my driver's license and my credit card. They stole my identity. Now, I hadn't used my credit card for some time, so I didn't even know it was gone. So they were using it and doing a lot of things and buying a lot of things on my credit card, and I didn't even know it. So they had stolen my identity and profited off of it. And as a consequence, I was poor but didn't even know it. Our children are in the school. The reason they don't jump up and down because they're not getting their African history taught is because they didn't even know their identity has been stolen. Their parents don't know their identity has been stolen. Because most all the parents are Tarzanized. They don't know anything about the beauty and the grandeur and sophistication of the homeland, of our homeland. Don't know anything about it. But then when we started testing what happens to children when they learn and get their credit card back, get their driver's license, get their identity back, their vitamin I back, what happens to the children? Well, we tested that in at least 45 different cases. One of the cases was tracked by the school district's computer in their Office of Assessment and Accountability. And they found a curious thing. The children who had been bagged, so-called bagged, had committed 365 offenses the year before we introduced our African Genesis Institute. 365, they had committed all kinds of suspensions and fighting, beating the teachers, fighting in the classroom, fighting in the lunchroom, harassing the neighbors. This was Leeds School in East Germany. But that's not a bad neighborhood now. That's not 15th and Diamond, where my wife taught for 35 years. That's not that. This is so-called upper class. Their marks were C- in mathematics, science. We introduced in September the African Genesis program. Now remember, these are the same children that had been said were bad and stupid. And we told them about the beauty and grandeur of their homeland. We told them about our fathers and mothers gave reading and writing to the world over 9,000 years ago, 7,000 years before Homer wrote the Iliad. 7,000 years before Europeans had their first book. I told the children, you are the descendants of the greatest people that God ever made. You built the pyramids. You built the pyramid and put a 70-ton boulder at the top of the pyramid, and today, Europeans and Orientals can't even build a 20-story pyramid. And we built a 45-story pyramid that lasted, and it hasn't moved a quarter of an inch from its foundations in 4,600 years. All the other 6 wonders of the world, that was the first wonder of the world. All the other ones have tumbled down. The oldest and the greatest, the Great Pyramid of Giza, is still standing and hasn't moved a quarter of an inch from its foundations. And I told the children that, they start straightening up. And we're descendants, your descendants, right straight from them. You are the people who gave algebra to the world. Amos created algebra 3,700 years ago and put it in a book. And that book is in the British Museum today. We went over there and copied pages of the first book of algebra that was created by a black man. I'm talking about no yellow man, I'm talking about a jet black man. 3,700 years ago. Well, these same children now lead school that had committed the 375 bad things the year before. We introduced it in September, told them who they were. We told these young girls, I said, you are the most beautiful females on the planet. The Greeks knew it because they named their most beautiful constellations after 2 black queens. One's named Cassiopeia and the other's named Andromeda. The most beautiful constellations in the sky named after 2 black queens. And you are the descendants of those black queens. You're both beautiful children, most beautiful females on the face of the earth. We are. Now, by December, they had only committed 65 because the thing hadn't really got hold to them until October, November. By December, there were 0. There were 0 offenses from December to June. A 0. And their marks in mathematics had gone up from C- to B+. That's what African Genesis does to the children. So we had over 25 different experiments proving, without a shadow of a doubt, that when one knows his identity, has his identity, his real identity, not the Tarzanized identity, not the jungles and the huts, but the beauty and grandeur of the spires of the great Timbuktu, the beauty and the spires of the great city, Janneh, of which Daoud spoke, where we built a model city of our most beautiful city. Our mothers and fathers knew of that city on the plantation. Some of it had been erased from their minds, but that one stuck because it stuck in a song. And that song went something like this. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates to the city of Hallelujah. There's 3 gates in the east. There's 3 gates in the west. There's 3 gates in the north. And there's 3 gates in the south, making it 12 gates. 12 gates of Hallelujah. Now that was this beautiful city. And they learned of this. Tears came to their eyes. And they said, well, we were in history too. Not only in history. Count Volney an 18th century French historian said, while others were still coming out of their caves and drinking blood out of the skulls of their enemies in Europe, you had already built great empires and great cities. Count Vaughan of Paris wrote that in his book called Ruins of an Empire. When he came over here to America, the racists over here took out those words that I just spoke, that he had in the words of the ones that were published in Europe. He took out the words that while others were still coming out of the caves, black people were given science, reading and writing, and music, and empires to the world. Now when our children, this is our identity. Well, what happened? Now let me tell you where you come. Let me tell you. I couldn't get anybody to go down to the school district with me at all. They said, Ed, you always talking about that African stuff. Man, I ain't from no Africa, I'm from South Carolina. You ought to get that in your yellow head. I tried for years to try to get somebody to help me. Then came along Black People's Unity Movement. Raoul and